Hello everyone, welcome back. So this is episode 19, the woman who challenged Pharaoh. Yep, the woman who challenged, what is that? Firaun? Pharaoh. I know I'm butchering that name. Firaun. Let's be honest, I butcher the names a lot. So, before we get started, there's a thanks button on the channel. You can donate, you don't have to. Subscribe if you're not, and if it's the type of stuff you want. Click the bell if you do, and if you don't want to do any of that, click the thumbs up. And video.
And then, if you like, the descent began. It is almost impossible to piece together the exact order of events. We simply have a hadith. There's a very long hadith in Musnad Imam Ahmad where the Prophet ﷺ mentions, on the night that I went on Isra wal Mi'raj, I smelt a fragrance that was very sweet. And so I asked Jibreel, what is this beautiful fragrance? So Jibreel said, this is the fragrance of the one who used to comb the hair of the daughter of Firaun and her children. So the Prophet ﷺ said, I asked Jibreel, what is their story? How come their fragrance is so strong? So Jibreel said, once when she was combing the hair of the daughter of Firaun, the comb fell from her hands and she said, Bismillah. So the daughter said, surely you mean the name of my father, because for her daughter's perspective, my father is God. And so this woman said, no, my Lord and your Lord is Allah, and the Lord of your father is Allah. And the girl said, do you want me to tell my father you said this? And this woman, whose name we don't even know, said, yes, go ahead. And so when Firaun found out, he called this slave girl and asked her, are you saying you have a Rabb besides me? Because Firaun used to say, Ana Rabbukum al-A'la. And Firaun used to say, as the Quran says, قَالَ هَلْ عَلِمْتُ لَكُمْ مِنْ إِلَهٍ غَيْرِي. Did I ever teach you there's another God besides me? Because he has to teach his people about God. And this is exactly what he asked this lady as well. She said, yes, my Lord and your Lord is Allah. And so Firaun ordered that a cauldron be put of fire, and it was boiled in front of her, and she was told that she has to throw her own children into the fire, one by one, or else acknowledge Firaun as her Rabb. She said, I have one request, O Firaun. Firaun said, what? He said, that you bury me and my children all together. You take all of our flesh and bones and you bury them in one location. So Firaun said, this is a condition that we have upon you. And so one by one, her children were thrown in until finally the last one that was left was her baby that was suckling at her bosom. And this was the one that she could not, she paused at. And so the baby spoke to his own mother and said, oh my mother, go forth and drop yourself in. Because this punishment of this world is nothing compared to the punishment of the next. And so she threw herself in, and what is amazing is that, subhanAllah, we don't even know her name, but the Prophet ﷺ recorded her plight and narrated it to the ummah. Her courage and bravery, Allah had willed that it would be preserved for the ummah. The Prophet ﷺ also said in Sahih Bukhari, then I entered into Jannah, and there are some versions of the hadith which says, I saw Jannah, and that's different than saying enter Jannah. And I saw in it tents made out of pearls, and I saw that the soil of Jannah was made out of musk. The Prophet ﷺ also said he saw many of the punishments of hell. So in one hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, I saw the punishment of the one who stole an orphan's money, that they had noses like that of camels, and they would be eating coals made out of fire, and their mouths would swallow these coals, and it would come out through their anuses. The Prophet ﷺ said in one hadith that he saw people who had nails of copper, and they were scratching their bodies and their faces with this, and these were the people who used to backbite. The Prophet ﷺ said, I saw people, they had in front of them pure meat.
Is backbite the people who would like talk about you behind your back? I'm guessing that's what that is.
And they had rotten infested meat, and they were eating the rotten and infested meat and avoiding the pure meat. I said to Jibreel, who are these people? And Jibreel said, these are the people that used to fornicate. They would leave the halal, meaning their spouses, and they would go to the haram. In another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said that he saw people with such large bellies that they could not stand up. They were on the ground. and animals were being brought over them to trample over them as a punishment. And when he asked who they were, Jibreel said, these were the people who would get their money from riba. And the Prophet ﷺ also said that he saw people who were cutting their own lips and their tongues with scissors of copper and scissors of punishment and fire. He asked Jibreel who these people were. Jibreel said these were the people who used to tell others to do good and they would forget themselves. The Prophet ﷺ
Yeah, there's quite a few of those people out.
also said, and I saw Dajjal, and one of his eyes was bloated. In another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said that I saw Dajjal, and I will tell you something about Dajjal that no other prophet has ever told his people, and that is that his left eye is like a rotten grape. And the Prophet ﷺ said, know that Dajjal is a'war, and a'war is one-eyed. The Prophet ﷺ came back down to Jerusalem and he then rerode Buraq. So Buraq is tied up in Jerusalem, right? Remember, Buraq is an animal that is for this world to transport him from Mecca to Jerusalem. As for the transportation from Jerusalem to the heavens, this is what is called Al-Mi'raj. So when he gets back down to Jerusalem, he then rides the Buraq back to Medina. And there are some narrations that are not fully authentic, but there's no problem in them to affirm them as well, that the Prophet ﷺ passed by 3 caravans of the Quraysh that he recognized. When he came back to Mecca, the Prophet ﷺ went back to sleep, he said, and he woke up in the Haram. And this clearly shows therefore that the actual Isra took place from the Haram itself to Baytul Maqdis and then back to the Haram. So the Prophet ﷺ said, when I woke up the next morning, I felt an anxiety about how am I going to tell the people of what happened to me, and what will they say, and they are going to reject me. And as I was sitting anxious and nervous and worried, he's sitting in front of the Kaaba. The enemy of Allah, Abu Jahl, passed by me and he saw me in that state. And so Abu Jahl said to him in a sarcastic manner, what is the matter with you? Why? Has anything happened? The Prophet ﷺ said, yes, something happened. So Abu Jahl said, what? So the Prophet ﷺ said, yesterday, last night, I was taken from here to Jerusalem. So Abu Jahl was shocked and he said, and you are now here amongst us? You're now waking up amongst us? And so the Prophet ﷺ himself said, he didn't know whether to make fun of me then or to wait so that I would not retract when he called the other people. The Prophet ﷺ said, yes, I'm waking up amongst you here. So Abu Jahl said, if I call your people, meaning the Quraysh, will you tell them what you have just told me? And so the Prophet ﷺ said, yes, I will. And so Abu Jahl began screaming out to the people, Hayya ma'shara bani Ka'b ibn Lu'ay, which is the great-grandfather of the Quraysh. Come forth, we have an announcement to make. And so the people came slowly from the places of Mecca. And so Abu Jahl says, tell them what you promised you would tell them. And so the Prophet ﷺ said, last night I went to Bayt al-Maqdis and I went to pray in the Masjid al-Aqsa, the Bayt al-Maqdis. So the people began reacting in different ways. Some of them began musaffiq, just like clapping, like in what is going on here. Others put their hands on their heads, not knowing what to do. And others began snickering and laughing until one of them said, and he had been there to Bayt al-Maqdis, can you describe it for us? Because everybody knew that the Prophet ﷺ had never been to Bayt al-Maqdis, right? And so the Prophet ﷺ said, I began describing the Bayt al-Maqdis until they began to ask me about specifics that I wasn't able to recall. I got confused and I became so worried and anxious that I wasn't able to answer, that I had never been so worried before. And he said, as I was waiting for what to respond, I saw in the distance Baytul Maqdis rising up in front of me, until I saw it descending beyond the house of Aqil ibn Abi Talib. And this is the house that he grew up in, because Abu Talib had died and Aqil is now living in it, right? The house that he grew up in, not the house he's currently living in, that's Khadija's house. And no question they asked of me except that I saw the Baytul Maqdis, right, basically being shown to me, and I looked at them and I answered every question that they had, until finally one of them said, as for the descriptions of Baytul Maqdis, then of Jerusalem, then he is accurate. The Prophet ﷺ said, and Ibn Hisham mentions this, I will give you some signs as well. And he mentioned the 3 caravans. He mentioned the first caravan is of so-and-so, and they will be returning soon because they were the closest to the city. The second caravan is so-and-so, and they had lost a camel, and you can ask them about that camel, they were searching for it. The third caravan is such and such, and they had this urn of water that I drank from. Abu Jahl said, if you saw them at such and such a place, the caravan should be coming right now, because it was very close to Mecca. And while they're discussing, the news arrives that the caravan is entering Mecca. And so Abu Jahl goes and sees, and it is exactly as the Prophet described, and he comes back and saying, this is clear sorcery. And of course it was at this time when one of the Quraysh came running to Abu Bakr and said, do you know what your companion has just said? Said what? He said, your companion claims to have gone all the way to Jerusalem, which is a month's journey, and back, which is another month's journey, and he did all of this in one night. Abu Bakr said, if he said that, then it must be true. So the man said to him, do you believe him in such a claim? And so Abu Bakr said, I believe him in something that is even more amazing than this. He claims that the revelation from above the 7 heavens comes to him instantaneously. Which is more amazing? Just to go to Jerusalem and come back, or that Allah is communicating with him instantaneously? And so because of this, Abu Bakr was called As-Siddiq. If you think about it, in this
I've heard this before, and what I love is the fact that Abu Bakr hears it, and they're telling him, like, can you believe he would lie like that? And he was just like, nah, he's telling the truth. Not even a hesitation, not even a doubt. Just said, no, he's telling the truth. I believe him. And I'm sure they were like, what? You believe him? What are you talking about? Like, to have somebody who trusts you so much that when you say that, they don't doubt it at all. Like, that's a ride or die kind of guy. He's with you. Yep. I mean, now to be fair, he's not going to have your back if you are somebody who's untrustworthy. You clearly have demonstrated yourself to him, to where when you say something, he instantly is like, yep, he's got your back, because he knows that what you're going to say, your actions, your words, they are fair, they're truthful, and he's not even doubting it. And that's awesome. That's awesome.
Journey of Isra wal Mi'raj, the Prophet ﷺ physically saw all of the pillars of Iman. He saw the hijab of Allah, and he spoke directly with Allah. He saw numerous angels, and he saw the angel Jibreel in the original form. He met all of the prophets, and he spoke to them. And this is the prophets in the books, right? And he spoke to them about the Day of Judgment, and he spoke to them about the signs of the Day of Judgment. And he saw heaven and hell, which are going to take place after the Day of Judgment. And he even saw the reality of Qadr. How? When the Prophet ﷺ went up and he saw Adam alayhi salam, he actually saw Adam surrounded by many people beyond what he could count. And on the right side of Adam was one group, on the left side another group. And when he saw Adam alayhi salam, saw the people on his right, he was happy. And when he saw the people on the left, he began to cry. So he asked Jibreel about this, and Jibreel said, these are all of the children of Adam. The Ashabul Yameen are the people of Jannah, the Ashabul Shimal are the people of Jahannam. So when he looks at the people of Jannah, he's happy. And when he looks at the people of Jahannam, he is saddened by seeing Adam with the right and the left, and by one more thing, the pen, the writing of the pen, hearing the pen. The Iman of the Prophet ﷺ, after literally seeing with his own eyes all of these pillars of Iman, you understand that this was a personal gift to the Prophet ﷺ to increase his own Iman.
That's pretty good. So I have a question. I know people who say when you die you go to heaven, or whatever you want that phrase to be. Jannah, I don't know. I know the word, but I know I get it wrong. So my question is that false today? But obviously when you die you have no concept of time. So if I died today and I would be waiting, unbeknownst to me, I would just be waiting. Would it happen to where I die today, and 3 million years from now, if the world were to end, or whatever happens, right? Boom, it happens. That 3 million years is I'm dead, and now it's the afterlife, and it's been 3 million years. Is that kind of, because I always wonder if it was supposed to be instantaneous, or if it's supposed to be this, you wait until the end of time, and now boom, now it happens. I got another question. What happens, or what's the saying for the afterlife? Like people would start, you would get into heaven, you would get into hell. But does anyone know what the next step would be in terms of what a God would create? Is he creating a new solar system? Is he creating a new planet? New civilizations? New this, new that? Or would that just be for us? Would the heaven be open to all forms of life from all over the universe? Or would it just be navigable? What did I just say? Navigable? Would it just be open? Sometimes words come out and I don't know what that's supposed to mean. Or would it just be open to people of Earth? And then, yeah. Does any of that make sense? I feel like I'm not quite sure if what I'm saying is making sense. You tell me. If you don't understand, then maybe I'll try to phrase it better in the comments. But if you understand what I'm saying, maybe you can answer. Maybe you don't even know. Maybe you have no idea. There's nothing specified. And if it's not specified, then I know that the answer I'm going to get is Allah knows best. I already know I'm going to hear that. And I understand that, but I'm just wondering if there's any, because I'm thinking like, let's say Julius Caesar. He died 2,000 some years ago. If he were to go to a heaven, he died 2,000 years ago, he goes like that, so he dies, and he's just like this, because he was, brutally murdered. Caesar murdered? Yes, Caesar was stabbed to death. So, I'm not going to reenact the murder, but, I'm dead, I'm dying, and now it's heaven. And that time has I almost said elapsed. Is that right? That time has passed, but clearly he has no concept of time when you're dead. So, does that make sense? I don't know if I'm just going to stop because I could just keep explaining it, and I feel like the more I explain it, the more I'm making it worse. If you understand, you could answer. If you don't understand, I'll try to phrase it a little better, but I'm just going to shut up now. Until next time, have a good day, have a good night.